And that, the rest is history. And now over 13 years, we've built this beautiful company that's just rich in our value system and always staying on brand, because that is where so many companies go sideways. It's like, that's great that it's a revenue maker, but if you're not doing good by other people and you're not contributing at the same time, you will limit the amount of success that you can create.
Martians landed.
Yes.
Wearing Prada suits.
Yes.
Drinking Henry Seltzer.
Yes.
Chewing juicy fruit.
Yes, and?
Your branding here.
Yes, brand.
Your message here.
Yes, and?
A verse about.
Yes.
Your product here.
Yes.
I'm Hirsch Redmond.
Yes, and?
I'm a message therapist.
Yes.
And I have a podcast.
Yes, brand.
That's right, that's it.
Yes.
We'll help you fix the world.
Yes.
Or your bottom line.
All right.
Your bottom line.
Get it. I get it. Welcome to the Yes Brand Podcast.
In the Yes Brand hot seat today is Kelly Resendez. In addition to being a mom, a business executive at Good Leap, a multi-billion-dollar fintech company, Kelly's a true leader in empowering women to live a life of abundance. We were just talking about abundance and mindset before the show, and we're going to dig into that now. As a co-owner of GoBundance Women, which is a membership organization for women dedicated to achieving greatness and abundance, Kelly's passionate about helping others adopt an abundance mindset and overcome sabotage. If you call it sabotage, then it almost doesn't even hurt you anymore. And her popular book is called Big Voices, and she has her empowered network and shares her strategies and tools to inspire through all of those different avenues. And today she is here on Yes Brand with me. Welcome, Kelly.
Hi there.
It's great to have you. Let's start with self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Because as I was doing the intro and, I stumbled over the word, I used humor to kind of deflect it. But I think it's probably because I really want to seize on that, because I think so many of us fall prey to it. So start with that a little bit, and then we'll go into your background.
Absolutely. What I'd say is that there's a lot of different ways that you can look at what self-sabotage is. One lighter version is just our self-protection plan, because that's truly where, when we get to the depth of it and uncover what's holding us back, it normally is just a protection mechanism, because most of us, we don't want to get hurt. We don't want to feel rejected. We don't want to put ourselves out there to the level that we need to live just that highest, most, I would say, authentic and extraordinary life that we're born for. And so my own journey with self-sabotage came from really uncovering some of the things that held me back from experiencing joy. And I will tell you, I'm a recovering perfectionist. That's one of the ways that I sabotaged myself. Another main way that I sabotaged myself was believing that I needed to have all the answers and not really having, that desire to ask for help. I think with life, a lot of times when you're successful, you believe part of it is just acting like you have it all versus really being vulnerable and sharing, more of the intimate details about what's going on in our heads. And so most of us just operate where maybe on the outside, things look great, but on the inside, we're in a battle between different voices in our head. And that's really where self-sabotage comes from. It's the subconscious mind that is creating thoughts and or actions or inability to take action that hold us back from getting to the next level.
Yeah. As you were speaking, I was thinking about the fact that so much of people's perception of us is based on our moment to moment exposures, because we have so many. Before social media and all this other stuff, and podcasts and various areas of promotion, we didn't have so many opportunities to screw up, right? We were, encapsulated a little bit in our lives, and now the perception of us can turn on a dime, even if we're not famous or well known, whatever. Just if we're vulnerable, it opens us up to, as you were starting to point out, being perceived as weak, or being perceived as losing it. What was go into your history a little bit if you
Yeah,
would, and tell me how the self-sabotage
definitely.
started.
Well, what I would tell you is that I was a classic overachiever growing up, needed to be center of attention, wanted to be the best at everything that I did. I was definitely, my parents promoted that as well. So there was no shortage of ambition when I went into the work world, and I got into the mortgage industry really early on in when I was still in college, and within a few short years was in the top 1% of mortgage originators in the nation. And so I created just a massive amount of financial success. I created a lot of business success at the sacrifice of my health and relationships and true, I would say just joy. I wasn't in joy. I was in, oh my gosh, is the Smith file on track? Who needs to be notified or whatnot? I'll tell you, like, I was somebody that not only could have a great relationship with someone, which is really important when you're in sales. I was really good at influence in sales. I also have a systems mind too. So that was really how I built my business. And again, in a few short years, I'd created this great business where I had, 5 or 6 assistants working for me. With that being said, I had my awakening in 2004. My mom had been diagnosed with dementia just a few years before at 57, and I could see the writing on the wall. I could see, like, man, I am really going to follow in her footsteps if I don't make some changes, because success is an inside out job. And as much as I had worldly success, was not feeling it internally. And that's where I really went on that deeper discovery into figuring out, like, who am I? Like, what do I really love? And I, to be honest with you, I hadn't had a present moment in my entire life up until that point. I probably did when I was a
Wow.
baby, but I was such a people pleaser. I was
Yeah.
so significance driven that everything that I did was for that reason. And when your purpose is aligned externally, that's where devastation is soon to follow. Now, sometimes that takes 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, but at some point we all awaken that it really, the most important relationship that we have is the one with self, and really stepping into our authentic power. So, since '04, I've been, obsessed, I would say, with personal growth and development and finding tools and healing and other ways to be able to help other people experience joy, because abundance is an inside out job. Like, you can
Yeah.
do all the things. You can use all the strategies, you can change your state, you can, have a big business, but if you're not feeling it internally, where you wake up in the morning and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I am so blessed. Like, I am just such a magnet for opportunity and love and kindness that it's just, I'm just so blessed." I'll tell people, like, if you're not feeling that way, you got to go have a breakthrough, because there is a different way. And that's been a long journey for me in getting there.
So when you had this, really tough moment with your mom, and something switched off in you, how did you take action?
Yeah, great question. So the first thing I would say is that most of us have, if you were to create an audience of who you're trying to impress or please, most of us put one or both of our parents in that audience. And my mom was front and center. So she was the one, when anything, like, I'm top producer, hey mom, she was definitely that person who I was trying to impress. Some other family members and friends and whatnot close second. So the minute that I did realize, like, what is this all for? Like, why am I working 60 hours a week and have all these material things and just moving from one day to another without really sinking into the enjoyment of it? I would say that it started with my physical well-being, because I was using food. I was using, hanging out and maybe having a few too many cocktails with friends or whatnot. I was using those things to distract myself. So that was the first area that I got in check, was my physical well-being, and learning more about, like, why do we have higher instances of dementia and Alzheimer's in Western society? What are the things that I can do to take care of my physical well-being so that I don't have that likelihood myself? And then I found the book Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and blessed that that was the book that I picked up, because I didn't even know what being present meant before that moment. I didn't even know. Like, I had to actually sit there and be like, how can I just sit in this moment? And the most beautiful thing was that as my mom was starting to lose some of like her brain control, which most of us are controlled by our brain, and that's why we're not in authenticity. As she was losing those things, she became just this amazingly just most loving, present person. She could look at a flower and you'd think that she was like embodying it. Like, she just saw things that she never saw before. And so I had this teacher alongside of me. And as much as she was, starting to go backwards, I really think she was starting to go forward, more to that childlike awe that we have for life. And it was beautiful. So that was my greatest teacher.
Yeah, it sounds like as you were starting to grow and awaken, that was happening to her, albeit, inadvertently.
Absolutely.
She would have kept all those other controls in place, if she could.
Yeah.
But she couldn't. So it was must have been a really amazing time. And then what inspired the creation of GoBundance? I mean, obviously all of this did, but how did you, we don't all start a community. Some of us join a community.
Yep.
And some of us feel compelled to start it. So what was that? What was that like? Especially with the other work that you were doing.
Long period of time, I'd say. Really how it started, I'd written a book called Big Voices, and my main audience was just females that were under self-suffering. So I look at suffering as being one of two, self-suffering, which is our thoughts are actually creating the suffering in our life, whether it's worry, anxiousness, doubt, perfectionism, all of those other things. And then there is suffering. And that's not the category where people have actually, done things to us. So I'm going to just really focus on that self-suffering category. One of the chapters that I wrote in the book was all about embracing loneliness. And what's fascinating about it is that at that point that I wrote it, I didn't realize that I was in such scarcity around connection. I told myself a story that it was so challenging to connect with like-minded people, because I would go to events where maybe Deepak Chopra or Brendan Burchard or Tony Robbins would be there. And I'd have this whole community of people that were there that I connected with. And then I had to go home. And then I was at home, and maybe you had a Facebook group, maybe you exchanged information with some of these people, but they weren't the people that I surrounded myself with every single day. And so as I was sharing some of this with someone, they're like, hey, just a reminder, like, aren't you the one that says that you're the creator of your own reality? Like, hello, like, you kind of sound like you're a bit of a victim in this. And it was a light bulb moment where it was, I need to, build community. And GoBundance Men was already around, friends with the owners of GoBundance Men, and had conversations with them. They were already thinking about starting a women's organization. And I had a really good friend, Ariel, who recommended that we attend their first kind of get together on seeing what was possible. And we did. And from there, that's where GoBundance Women came about.
And were you concurrent with that at GoodLeap? Sorry.
Yeah. Yes. So I've been at GoodLeap for 13 years now.
Right. So at the time that you had this awakening and started, changing your life. So things changed for you in business as well, I imagine.
Absolutely. So 2004 is when I definitely got into the personal growth space. One of the coolest things when you get into this space and when you want to get to a level of mastery in consciousness or life, when you start teaching it is where it goes deeper. So honestly, being a public speaker now for 20 years, these are the conversations that I have all the time with people like yourself or on stages. And it just, the messages kept going deeper into my own, subconscious about living authentically, being on purpose. And although mortgage was very good to me, it was also something that I knew that I wanted to do more. So in 2011, I left a very thriving business that I had created for myself and took a risk on a smaller company here in Roseville, California, that started off as a smaller company and now we're a multi-billion-dollar company. And so being a part of that over these 13 years has been one of the greatest gifts in my own life, because we're very world positive. You know, our mission is to create sustainability in the world. And so I feel blessed that I get to do it, you know, every single day.
And that fulfillment now, I guess, that you feel is something you couldn't really quite feel with the mortgage
I couldn't.
industry. And not just because of
Yeah.
that industry, but because that's not where your head was. Your
Right.
head wasn't at I want to really
No.
impact the world. It was, I want to be the best at what I'm doing. I
Yep.
want to succeed.
Absolutely.
Did you find yourself, and I want to come back to Good Leap as well, but because I'm interested in, how you view the company versus,
Yeah.
Kelly Resendez,
Yeah.
the personal brand. So we'll talk about that in a second. But as far as the impact, part, were you more competitive with other people before and then more competitive with yourself after,
Yeah.
like in terms of what was that like?
Absolutely. It was definitely competition with other people. If anybody out there has been in mortgage and real estate, it's like we had a dashboard, which live data every single day. And that's what we looked at. And we were fed by that. Once I kind of shifted out of that, I ignored it all. I did not pay attention at all. My desire for competition just continuously got lower and lower, where I was like, it was just about making an impact. And I knew I could do that in the mortgage space. It was just one family at a time or one real estate agent at a time. And I knew that this purpose that I had for really sharing, wisdom with other people to help them increase joy, it was not going away. And so I did start speaking in the mortgage and real estate industry too, so that I could reach more people over a period of time, which was super fun, but at the same time wasn't still what I really desired to do. So that's kind of where that transition came. But the competitiveness, I'm competitive on the pickleball court, but when it comes to business, that part of me has just been replaced with contribution.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is a wonderful thing to hear people talk about more and more these days. I don't know if it was the pandemic or what, but that probably played a part in it. People taking stock and shifting gears a little bit. In your case, it was much longer ago, but that transition has now put you where, you're a co-owner of GoBundance, you're a business executive with Good Leap, and then there's you as, who you are in total.
Yeah.
How do you now start to think about that? Because if you took a step back from one of these two pursuits and just kind of looked to yourself, what are you feeling and looking for in the next, few years?
Yeah. I mean, the way that I look at it, again, once you start to awaken and you start to realize like there is a better way, you do have a fuel or desire to share it with other people. So for myself, I want to impact the lives of millions of people. The cool thing is we do that here at Good Leap as well. For our nonprofit, it's called Give Power. And that honestly is one of the greatest reasons why I chose this role. But I would tell you that one of the greatest things that I believe in is that the world is going to be such a better place when people step into their highest, most authentic power, because they will no longer want to work for companies that are really not good for humanity and not good for our planet. People need to start really feeling powerful in abundance, that I don't have to work and trade my time or energy for money from a company that's actually harming other people. And so it's definitely, that's one of the most important things to me, is that people really embrace their worthiness. I'll just tell you a quick story of how I ended up here.
Sure.
I had created, because I, had been talking to my previous company, which is one of the largest financial institutions in the country, about scaling a new program with them. And I actually wrote my own job description. And for those of you listening, if you write your own job description of exactly what you want to do, it will come. and they were taking forever. Of course, as any large big box bank would, a lot of red tape. And that's when I connected with Hayes, the founder and CEO of our company. And I had shared with him, he asked, like, what are your goals? Where do you want to get to? And I'm like, well, I actually already wrote a job description. Do you want to take a look at it? And he's like, I don't even need to look at it. Let's just figure it out. And that was it.
Yeah.
And that, the rest is history. And now over 13 years, we've built this beautiful company that's just rich in our value system and always staying on brand, because that is where so many companies go sideways. It's like, that's great that it's a revenue maker, but if you're not doing good by other people and you're not contributing at the same time, you will limit the amount of success that you can create.
Yeah, that's why I tell my clients that all branding is personal.
Yes.
Can be a company or a person or a namesake brand or whatever it might be. But in your case, you guys know that you're not going to change your value system for profits. And if we look at corporate decisions and decision making, it's like we've taken as the norm that they have to wrestle with moral issues and ethical issues because of the profits. But I think it becomes more and more unattractive to see a company struggle with morality if the lines are pretty, clearly drawn. We're not talking about, really difficult kind of, complex situations. We're just talking about good stuff, bad stuff. What do you want to be known for? How do you want to handle this? Do you want to be good in business in the point where you're actually serving other people?
Absolutely. And we can do all those things simultaneously. I mean, I just think we've got to feel good about what we do. Like, I know that every day I wake up and I'm excited about, having an opportunity to do what I do, and GoBundance is a side thing that I do outside of business, but it's one of those that I know I'm making an impact in everything I do. Like, I have an overarching purpose statement for my life, and every decision I make gets filtered through that. And I think the challenge with so many business owners is that there's so many different things that we can do that we might not love. And over time, we start to resent those things. So as you're building a business, really getting solid on how do you want to feel in your business? That's where I start when I help people, is really getting clear on your vision for how you want to feel, because so many business owners, they might have success, but they feel miserable. They're working 70 hours a week. They feel overwhelmed. They feel like there's no opportunity for them to get out of it. And it's like, there's a different way. All you are is one breakthrough away from a new life. And we are the creators, in an abundance mindset. Absolutely. You have to know, like, I get to choose how I live my life. I know what my priorities are, and I get to choose how I live it.
Now let's circle this back around to, I want to give you the last word here in terms of a message to kind of not your former self, but to people who are out there now, who are young, who are driven, and maybe they even have processed some of that purpose-driven jargon, like to some people, it's authenticity is just a word, it's like, so it might wash over them in a way. And then they think, okay, check, I'm doing this is good. This is fine. What would you say to people who are truly driven? They're raised in an environment of perfectionism. What would you suggest?
Yeah. So the first thing that I would say is that you must start to recognize who's in charge. Is it your brain, or is it your highest, most authentic self? Our brains have been completely taken over. We live in a very left brain society about doing. And that's something that, is highly addictive. Somebody can spend all day on email and feel successful because they're getting dopamine and they're accomplishing something when they really haven't done anything that's going to elevate their own brand, their own business, their own vision, their own whatever. And so really just making sure that you understand, like, you are not your thoughts. That's the first thing that I would say, is recognize that you aren't your thoughts. Really take a little bit more time and energy to sit down and start with how you want to feel in your life. And every day, try to take actionable steps towards getting there. So if it's your health, Like, do one thing today, drink more water, take more steps, like habit stack. I do push-ups when I'm getting my coffee. Like, there's just little things that we can be doing all day long to get us that much closer to how we want to feel. And so the next piece I'd say is that you have to learn how to ask for help. Once you recognize like there is a different way, it might not be the only way. Like, there's all different ways there. You have to learn how to ask for help. You're not alone. Like, all the business owners out there, like, you have to realize like there is power in proximity. Who do you surround yourself with? Do you surround yourself with people that say, wow, I can't believe you're doing so much or whatnot? Or do you surround yourself with people saying, how can I support you? What's the next best connection that's going to take your business to the next level? And really just make a decision to up level who you're around. And you asked before, like, why Go Abundance? You know, I needed this community of women to be able to hold me accountable to my highest and best self and to show me what was possible. Like, there are so many people that have ands, right? Like, I'm an executive and I have a women's mastermind where I'm supporting female, business leaders and owners across the world. And so you just have to be open to unlimited possibilities. No matter where you are, you can create a path, maybe to leave that W-2 to expand your business. But, most of us just need to recognize if you aren't where you are, it's because you don't have a system. And that's what we do at Go Abundance Women, is help you create that system that's needed to scale and not sacrifice your relationships and your health while doing it.
All right.
If you liked the show,
Yes, and
it worked for you,
yes, that.
subscribe and leave a
Yes, friend.
5-star review.
Yes, friend.
Tell all your friends.
Yes, friend.
Get your branding here.
Yes, friend.
Get your branding here.
Yes, friend.
Did I make it clear?
Yes, friend.
Get your branding on
Yes.
before they're gone.
Yes.